Hello friends and bees and friends who are also bees, and welcome to this week's Indie Thursday stream. This week we are going to be continuing our playthrough of Higurashi When They Cry, Saikoroshi. As before, we are playing using a downloaded copy, which doesn't always like to behave for me, and also doesn't have its own background music, so we're instead just using random music from the Higurashi soundtrack. So I've just clicked on the first one that loaded in this playlist and we're going to be listening to that. Yeah, I don't know if I've got anything else to say. When we left off last week, God, fuck if I can remember. When we left off last week, we had been knocked out and had woken in a different world, a strange world where nothing bad has happened to any of our friends. They're all getting along okay, except for Rena, who is lonely and depressed. I said Rena, I meant Rika, who is lonely and depressed and is having just generally a bad time of it. And also there is no Hanyuu. So we've had to contact Hanyuu from our world, as it were, to see if we can get home. So let's swap over to the gameplay. Watch as I have a moment of terror where I think, oh my god, is this going to work? I've also realised that it's not exactly centred, which, you know, is not ideal, but I can't work out how to centre it well. So that looks good enough. Let's put some music on to avoid awkward background noise. Awkward lack of background noise, rather. And let us continue. So I can't remember what happened. But after school, we are stopped by some of our pals. Rika, do you have a minute? After school, when the rain had ceased and I was thinking about going home before it started again, I was stopped by Satoshi. When I look, Mion and Reina are together with him too. Looks like I've been forced to stop by the upperclassmen brigade. The faces weren't so calm. I'd have suspected to be some kind of intervention for what I did to Satoko during lunch break. That's the thing, the dramatic thing that I forgot about is we were trying to read our thing and Satoko was bullying us, and so we flipped out and beat her up with a chair, which was pretty harsh, but like the idea of Rika being the one to lose her shit is always wild to me. I apologise as well, I'm like starting to get a headache, so there's a very good chance I'm going to have to pause in the middle of this to go take some painkillers, and then I'll spend the rest of the stream with one of my eyes covered up to deal with the headache, but we shall see. I've eaten, which will help with the low blood sugar, because I've been feeling too ill to be hungry recently, and also I have liquid, so let's see. Intervention for what I did to Stoko during lunch break. Is there something you'd like to ask me? Sort of. We wanted to talk to you for a bit. Is it about what happened at lunch? There's that too. I'm very sorry for hitting Satoko with a chair. Without even hiding my discouragement, I recite that meaningless apology. Don't be scared, Rika. We're not here to scold you. Then why did you stop me? Let's get right to the point. We had a discussion to see what we could do so that everyone could get along. But, you know, just in case, I'd like you to understand one thing. You're part of the reason that things have gone as far as they have. Mion, you don't need to say something like that so bluntly. But I think that teaching the younger kids is a job the upperclassmen have to do. Am I wrong? Seems they're turning this into something quite bothersome. Seems like it might become even worse for me if I try to deal with it, so I decide to pretend I'm listening instead. Interpreting my silence as embarrassment, Reina started talking to me with all the more apparent cheerfulness. Rika, you also think it'd be nice to be friends with everyone and to be able to have lots and lots of fun playing together, right? And, you know, we thought about what we should do so that everyone could play together as friends. What do you think it is? I don't know. I've just realised I've made a mistake. And I am going to have to AFK super quickly. Okay, I am back. Let's see how this works. What do you think it is? It is? I don't know. Probably Rika doesn't know this yet, but... Stopping my phone buzzing at me. Mion has a lot of different kinds of games. See? Well, it's just a hobby. When I was little, for some reason, there was a period where I collected board games and card games. I'm not really interested in them anymore, but well, it's not that I throw them away. I have a huge pile of them. There we go, right. Sorry, sorting out my wonky ears. I have a huge pile of them. To have so many fun looking games and then not play any of them, leaving them to collect dust, sure would be a waste. I'd like to try playing that English thief game where the one who plays the thief uses sunglasses. I don't know who's speaking here, so we'll see. And I'd like to try playing the one that has the building blocks, where we connect one block after another. All the manuals are English though. Bastard Shion used to be good at reading them at least. If we ask Shion, it would probably be faster, but she's at boarding school right now. Then let's all try to read them and understand them. I'm sure that'd be fun too. That's right. If everyone plays the game by the same rules, even if those rules are wrong, it'll still be fair. Hey, looks fun, right? Everyone will gather after school and play games, so we all think we should start a games club. Games club? You mean club activities? Anyone in the class can participate, and when everyone plays together, Rika, I'm sure that before you realise it, you'll be part of everyone's circle of friends. Since you've been the only one isolated from the rest of the class, consider it as a gift from the upperclassmen to help you out. Hey, Mion, we don't need to play-by-play. To be honest, I've been feeling kind of sorry for you, but I also think that the present state of isolation you're in is kind of your own fault. My own fault? With those words, Reina and Satoshi became silent. Somehow, what Mion said seems to be a common opinion shared by everyone in the classroom. My own fault? Naturally, even though I'm the person they're directing this message to, I don't have a clue what they're talking about. Even if they are talking about the Rika Frude from before, I came here. To me, it's like they're... talking about the Rika Frude before I came here. To me, it's like they're talking about another person. However, that blank way of speaking I've developed seems to have looked like a lack of understanding due to being younger. They sigh lightly. Their behaviour feels unpleasant, for it seems as if I'm being told to look inside my own heart. I'm gonna stop this charade already. Before everyone moved away, you know? Rika, you were like a little princess, right? Little princess? That's right, a little princess. In the group of boys, Rika was just a little princess who would get them to pamper you or do whatever you wanted. Without doing anything yourself, you always had them do your bidding. Tomita and Okamura, do you remember them? Looked like those two really liked you and they did everything you said. And you just remained there, nonchalantly taking advantage of every single one of them. And then you did things in order to make those boys compete against one another, and always profited by making others fight. There were a lot of kids who didn't like that, and when all those boys coincidentally moved all at once, and you were left alone, there were even kids saying, "Serves you right." That was not me. Rika. She's talking to you. Listen to what Mion is saying. I'm listening. You're not. Rika, you look like you think this has nothing to do with you. Isn't that right? Even if she is Reina, it seems her sharp perception of people's feelings is the same. I'd like to think it was just a guess, but she was dead on. Reina, you stop it too. I think Rika's already feeling bad enough about that. I wonder about that. I still didn't hear from her that she's reflected. Just from looking at her, it seems she didn't realise it until she was told by us. That's why I'm telling you to stop. It's not that we want to bully Rika. We really do feel like becoming friends with you. In order to do that, everyone has to cooperate in order to change the relationship we've had so far. The words felt unpleasant for some reason, because the things they said were not about Rika Friday. They sounded like they were said to me. Am I a little princess? Fun fact I discovered is that the word in Japanese here for princess, is there's like it's the same way that what's his face refers to oh my god, my poor brain is just empty. It's that when we saw princess used before, it's the same way of referring. I have absolutely fucked up my timing and my ear, but that's okay. Am I a little princess? There was no guarantee that I wasn't actually like that. I'm the most loved of the club members. I'm pampered by Reina and the boys of the class. I sneer at Toko and Keiichi's blunders, and I comfortably take advantage of their efforts. Without doing anything by myself, all I ever do is greedily devour the goodwill given to me by others. It certainly was about me. That was about the me who became alienated for not wanting to accept this sad and lonely world. But there's no reason for them to be saying it to me. So for some reason it didn't make any sense, and yet it was still unpleasant. Well, let's Toko join the club as well. Since Toko is stubborn too, she probably won't be able to say it directly, but I think she'd like to make friends with you, Rika. What do you think? Will Rika try joining our games club too? I'm sure it'll be fun. And then from around here, you see? Will you try to make a little effort to change yourself? Is what we mean. In the beginning, maybe it'll feel awkward. But, you know, I'm sure we'll eventually be able to become friends. I think that everyone wants to become friends with Rika too. And if Rika feels the same way, both parties will be reaching out their hands to each other. And there's no way they won't reach. And we are already reaching our hands out to you. Headache. All you have to do is grab on. I feel like I've heard Keiichi or someone else saying something very similar in another world. You sure have literally heard Keiichi saying that in another world. I'm sure those words would be a very pleasant thing for Rika Furude, but not for me. For the Rika Furude who existed before I took over this body. To me, this world was a fake world inside a dream, and I'm in the middle of a search. I don't have time to hang around with them. But their feelings for Rika Furude aren't fake. I couldn't find an answer to how I should react to their feelings. Fun fact, the music that we were just listening to is called Fascism, which is definitely a phrase. I should react to their feelings. Rika, I'm sorry. Earlier, when I went to the bathroom, I ended up hearing just a bit of the conversation you were having with Dr. Yamamoto in the infirmary. Reina puts up an apologetic expression. To think there was another person hearing that conversation that certainly a person of this world would think, upon hearing it, to be pure nonsense. And if that person feels disgusted about me for that, and doesn't want to get near me anymore, I could understand, but I kind of couldn't understand why it ended up like this. The world Rika was talking about, it was a world where everyone got along and had fun, right? Rika, you wanted to go back there, right? So you see, we discussed and figured out a way that Rika would be able to go back there. Of course, it doesn't mean we can call in Tomita or Kimura, who already moved away. Yeah, I think everyone wants to go back to our old world, but I think that's an absolutely impossible thing. Eh? I'm startled. There's no way Reina would be able to understand about me or the former world. In spite of that, Reina's worlds feel profoundly meaningful and pierce into my heart. I actually have no idea how this arc ends. I haven't spoiled myself on how this arc ends. It was adapted in the anime, and I was looking at the anime adaptation, but just to work out a good place to split the arc in the middle. I genuinely have no idea how the story finishes or how we go. I know we do go back, I have no idea how, so it's an adventure. No matter how stubbornly we try to pick up the pieces of the broken glass, the fragments are fragments. What's been broken once can't go back. But you know, that glass isn't the only one out there. I guess it's a pity when one breaks, but we should search for others. However, we definitely won't be able to find them if we just hang our heads staring at the pieces of the broken glass. In other words, we can't call back Rika's close friends who've already moved away. But in that case, you can make other friends, ones just as good as the ones you had before. I'm sure that by doing that, the world you built will become something that is infinitely closer to Rika's old world. Naturally, it won't be exactly the same thing, but you see, I think that's the best method to get as close as you can. Sometimes you might end up with something even better than before. Just like they say, with the fall of the rain, the earth's surface would ever something, right? Me IRL. What do you think, Rika? We'll all root for you, hoping you'll manage to become familiar with everyone quickly. So, will you try to make an effort together with us? Those kind words, if they were told to the Rika of this world, she would probably break down crying. Oh, good translation, I guess. I just kind of needs a bit of an edit. If those kind words were told to the Rika of this world, she would probably break down crying. However, seeing that I took over, Rika Frude isn't here anymore. The Rika Frude they're calling out to isn't a dweller of this world anymore. I think I'd rather return this body to Rika Frude. If I did that, I guess the one person who lives at the border of the parallel world, me, would manage to obtain a chance to convert fate into a happy world, bit by bit. It's only if I return to the former world and manage to return this leftover body to Rika Frude. Wonder where this world's Rika went. That's not possible. Because for me to leave this world, it would be necessary to use a method similar to returning the fragment from this world to the world of the gods. In other words, my death. I won't be able to leave except through my death. And it means that when I took over as Rika Frude, it was the same thing as Rika Frude already being dead. But perhaps there's at least one method to return this body to Rika. I'm skipping past the weird energetic music. That would be my death in a different shape. There we go. Notably, I am not a parasite or anything. To put it differently, I'd say I'm a personality aware of different worlds. No, maybe I could even say I'm just memories aware of different worlds. In other words, the things about those different worlds were forgotten, that'd mean the same as my death. Since Rika Frude has only this world, I'll live in this world with all my might. By doing that, I will gradually be forgotten. The worlds I was living in will become vague, and I'll give everything I have in order to live in this world I'm living in now. In other words, it's possible. I just need to decide to give up about the former world and live in this world. Maybe it would be different from the former world, as Reina says, but it's the best method to bring me closer to the former world. Maybe it'll be a little different from the former world, but the club is about to be formed. The number of classmates is half what it should be, and Satoshi is here in Keiichi's place. Satoko isn't my best friend, but depending on how we deal with each other from now on, maybe we will even be able to reclaim our friendship, even if it's not as perfect as it had been in other worlds. I hear Hinamizawa will sink in half a year, but at my new home, I guess I can make an effort to make new friends again. It's not a cruel fate to Rika Frude. It's an equal and fair fate to all the people living in this world. I am the only exception to the rule, discontent with that fate and asking too much. I don't know. For which world should I try to fight? I recall Reina's words. A broken glass won't be able to return to the same way it was, and we won't be able to find a new glass while we lament about it. I wonder which sort of metaphor could be applied to the glass. the glass that exists to be filled with water. Perhaps that water could be called happiness. The glass breaks and the happiness inside it scatters around. Since the glass broke, we can't store the happiness in it and get sidetracked. But if we can change our minds to fill a new glass with happiness without being attached to the broken glass forever, maybe a new world will open up for us. But however similar, that world will forever be different from the former world. The search for the key to return to the former world is so difficult. This is a temptation directed at weak hearts, to make them give up midway, isn't it? Didn't I vow to make any kind of effort possible to return to the former world? If I break that vow, Hanyuu, who is betting that fate on me, will be left behind all alone forever, and I'll be the only one to become happy thanks to the path that I've chosen. I have no obligation to make Hanyuu happy, but Hanyuu was the friend who guided me during the 100 years as a partner, a comrade. So, even if I choose to follow that temptation, I need Hanyuu's approval first. In other words, now, I was not qualified to give an immediate answer to their proposal. I truly thank you. I really appreciate it. Don't worry, we'll protect you. So before the school is closed, let's create lots of fun and happy memories. No, I mean, I'd like to sort out my heart a bit first. Huh? What's up with that maidenly response? It's not like Saitoshi confessed his feelings for you or anything, you know? Mion, don't say unnecessary things. I understand a bit of what Rika's feeling right now, so we'll be waiting for Rika to sort out her heart. Thank you. At the time, I ask you, please, let me, Rika Furude, be everyone's friend. I apologetically lower my head. That was all I could do in this situation. I declined their proposal to go back home with everyone and went home alone instead. Because I thought that everyone going back home, having fun with everyone, was a privilege especially for Rika Furude. This is not a thing that I, Frederica Berncastle, should be given. I find it interesting to... I'm pretty certain that, but no, did this? Just 2.5, wasn't it? I think Rei, which is what this, arc was first released on, I think that came out before Umineko. So the Frederica Berncastle in Umineko is a reference to Rika here. But I may be wrong, in which case it's a neat, like, back reference, I guess. I wonder, what am I? I wonder if it wouldn't be better if a ball came flying and hit my head. The Rika Furude of this world was taken over by me, all because of that accident. Then, if I was hit again, I wonder if I would disappear and return this body to the real Rika Furude of this world. There wouldn't be anything to hesitate about their proposal, if only I weren't me. Certainly this world is very sad compared to the previous world I was in, but this world has something characteristic about it, and there's a positive objective of becoming happy in this world's way. If I didn't know about the other world, I wouldn't even be able to hide my tears at the presentation of the happiness I'd possibly be able to grasp again. I wonder if these contradictory sentiments are from the Rika Furude sleeping away inside me. Those sentiments felt I was an annoyance, and condemned me for putting their proposal on hold, and the reason I was going back home all alone. I'm home. Welcome back. Usually when my mother said welcome back, in no time she'd ask about today's homework and such, but today it didn't happen. Rika, come to the kitchen. For some reason, my mother's voice was cheerful and easygoing. What does she want? I wonder if she wants to surprise me in a good sense or something. But I couldn't think of any reason why today was special. People's expectations come out in their voices. For the time being, I feel like I should show up. Leaving my belongings in my room, I headed towards the kitchen. When I go there, even though it's probably not time for that yet, my mother was starting to prepare dinner. I wonder if something good happened, because my mother is in a good mood. Annually, around this time period, with the Watanagashi festival getting closer, she often gets impatient due to the many preparations and arrangements. Knowing that way too well, I was bewildered and didn't understand the cause of my mother's good mood. I ask her what she wants, And then she makes a proposition I haven't heard even once in these 100 years. Let's cook together with Mama today, okay? Let's make a splendid curry and surprise Dad. Okay. I don't like curry that much, but I feel that the me of 100 years before, in other words, not me, but Rika Furude, liked it. So I at least could understand that my mother, inviting not the me of now, but Rika Furude to make curry, was saying that she wanted to please her daughter. I don't like my mother all that much. I hated how hysteric she got and how she spoke in a way that cornered others. That's why, when I'm treated with kindness like this, the reasons why I've grown to dislike her also end up disappearing. While finding out what would be the reason for my mother's change of heart, I decided to join her so as not to harm her mood for now. Then, let's peel the potatoes. Can you handle a kitchen knife? It's dangerous, so use the peeler. Okay. In fact, I can handle a kitchen knife. I can handle it so easily I can make a long kimono sash by peeling a radish. But I won't show that the daughter can handle a kitchen knife more freely than the mother and smash my mother's honour. Here, I decided to let her save face. My mother probably started using a kitchen knife a decade and several years ago at most, but I've been using one for several decades. When you compare the positions of decade and several, my experience is on a completely different level. For this reason, for being so proud of being able to handle a kitchen knife better than my mother, for wanting to boast to my mother, maybe I ended up trampling on my mother's feelings of wanting to teach her daughter how to use a kitchen knife. One would expect a parent to have lived longer than her child. That's why a child respects the things that the parent learned from a life longer than theirs. But in the case of a witch like me, the child has lived longer than the parent and learned much more than her. I thought that perhaps I didn't learn the things I really should have. Because the more I obediently listen to what my mother says like this, the less hysterical she becomes later on. If I don't feel like respecting my mother as my senior in life, even my mother won't feel like behaving as a senior in life. And in the end, all that remained between us was a cold and unpleasant mother-daughter relationship. If I'd been more like a daughter, if I'd feigned ignorance and learned to be like a child, maybe the relationship with my mother would have been this peaceful. In other words, my mother is Rika Furude's mother, which is not the mother of a witch who lived 100 years. If I think back, it was natural that she was cold to me. Here, you put things in the pot in order, starting from the things that boil slowly, like this. Okay, when do we put the onions in? If you cook the onions too much, they'll melt, so they can be the last to go in. Rika did her best to cut the onions right. I'm sure it'll turn out delicious. Right. My mother seems very happy, with a caring smile on her face. That smile is very warm. Even though after 100 years I was supposed to have completely forgotten, it took me even less than a moment to remember it. My parents always die in 1981. I can't overturn that fate at all. Besides, if we can't get along well from the start, even if they disappear it wouldn't matter to me. As those thoughts began piling up, my concern for my parents disappeared, and the more my heart and my parents' heart missed each other, the more we fell into a vicious cycle. I've been thinking I had nothing to gain in this world, but I had no idea I'd eventually realise such an important thing. This does remind me, I'm fairly certain, that there is a hint in one of the previous games, which I believe is Rika's mother, like, talking about how much she doesn't like Rika. I can't remember exactly. There is a very good chance that I'm, like, mixing up Rika's mother and Rika and Rika and Hanyuu, but I'm fairly certain that's a conversation. Fairly but not 100p. If it's a mother like this, maybe spending time together will be filled with happiness and warmth. That's right. Maybe the reason I refused my mother's warmth was because I wanted to relieve the sadness of their passing. If the fate of 91 can't be overturned, then I might as well grow to hate them. I wonder if that way of thinking was the root of it. My mother in this world won't disappear, even after 1981. She'll be here forever, after this too. I'm a bit envious of Rika Furude, and now I'm driven by the will to return the me of this world to Rika Furude. The former world and this world are very different. Keiichi isn't here, Shion isn't here, Hanyuu isn't here, but in their place, Satoshi is here, and my parents. There was no club, but they're about to start it up. Satoko might not be my friend now, but it's possible she will come so soon. I compare the former world and this world, but I don't know which of them I should choose. I decide to entrust the decision to Hanyuu. That's right. My fate is not mine alone. It's also Hanyuu's. Whatever choice I make, I must not decide without consulting her. I'm gonna skip to the next song just because this one isn't particularly like... I don't know, appropriate for introspective Rika moments. Previous world and this world both exist because Hanyuu lent me her power. If Hanyuu hadn't lent me her power, I'd have been done in for in the very first world. I'd have my belly cut open by Takano and it'd be the end. I put the lid on the curry pot and let it simmer. Meanwhile, my father arrived home and looked forward to the curry the two of us made together. After that, urged by my mother, I set the table. If we were in the usual 1981, being ordered about by my mother would be very annoying. But being told to do things by the mother of this world didn't feel like trouble at all. Rika, please dish up the rice on everyone's plate for me. Can you do it? Sure, I can do that. Of course I can do such a thing, idiot. In the past I've thought about saying that many times, but I don't feel that way now. I opened the steaming rice cooker and dished up the rice. Then my mother brings a piping hot curry pot and shares it into everyone's plates. Ooh, amazing. The rice Rika dished up and the curry Mum made, huh? Looks delicious. Oh, that's not true, right? I made the curry together with Rika. What a rude dad, isn't he? I withdraw myself. I withdraw because Rika Frude shouts that I am not necessary. I give myself back to Rika Frude and enjoy this happy family meal from the bottom of my heart. Sorry, I'm messing around with background music as per usual. When the crooked potato showed up, we pleasantly laughed to each other. I don't cut potatoes clumsily, but since Rika Frude is still clumsy, this kind of thing happens as well. And curry, if all the ingredients are the same, will have nothing but the taste of roux sold on the market. So if it's the same roux, no matter how you make it in 100 years' time, the taste will be the same. But at least this curry had a different taste. I was shedding tears for the Rika Frude I'd lost. No, to the me that I'd lost. Rika Frude takes back the warmth she was forgetting. I wonder if a ball came flying again and hit my head. If that happened, I'd faint once, and when I woke up, I'd have forgotten about me. Wouldn't it be the best happy ending of all? I am a defect of sorts. I, thinking that this world is defective from my alternate point of view, am a defect myself. In that case, just what is the world I reached after my 100 years of travel? Keiichi and Reina, Mion, Satoko and Shion? Was the happiness of that world that everyone achieved just a dream? That's not true. That world was the world where I took lessons for more than 100 years. A glorious world that everyone achieved by believing in each other. It was full of a different kind of happiness from this world. Both of them shine, and none of them is better or worse than the other. In the end, there's no such thing as a superiority or inferiority in the world. I was in a world of extremes, being killed by Takano or not. That's why I ended up reaching the point of thinking about the countless worlds in two categories, success or failure. Oh god, I'm only like 40 minutes in, and my throat already hurts. But we're gonna push and we're gonna finish this tonight. We're gonna do it, and then I can move on to the console arcs. But this multitude of worlds is not so simple as to be thought of as a duality. Will tomorrow's meal be hamburger or grilled celery? It's not a matter of which of the two is success or failure. In both worlds, there's the happiness of being able to spend a fun dinner with my family. What if tonight's dinner were reversed for each one at that dining table? Asking that would be the height of inelegance. In the first place, everyone's dinner tonight is the same. The former world and this world, none of them is better or worse. I have to recognise that. I still don't know where the fragment through which I can return to the former world is, but if I don't know, and the power of the crystal globe through which I get in contact with Hanyuu ends up vanishing, I shall banish the defect, and return this body to Rika Frude. From Rika's point of view, she could certainly say that I went back to the former world, just like how I pretended that this world was a world inside a daydream. To Rika Frude, my former world is the daydream. The delusion of the defect, me, will only disappear inside the daydream. Maybe the method to go back to the former world is irrelevant. Which of the two will I choose as the real world? Maybe that's what it was all about. This is something I think / panic about. No, I wouldn't say I panic about it, but the idea of like your entire life just being like a daydream is kind of... There's a fic that I read where one of the characters is talking to the other and explaining how they spent some time in an orphanage before they sort of found their extended family. And they sort of say that the difference between life before and afterwards, being found by the extended family, was so, like, the difference was so wild that sometimes they think they're still a child in that orphanage dreaming up, like, a future world and the whole, you know, everything that's happened to them, which, A, is a pretty raw line, and B, like, it's fairly accurate to this, I guess. Oh, one of my piercings is flipped upside down. There we go. Problem with studs is that sometimes they don't stay the way that you tell them to. When they move, it can be really annoying. After the meal was finished, we tidy up the tableware to the kitchen and start to clean. Since it seems like my father had a meeting at night, he went out again. Rika, can you wash this for me for a moment? I have to have a little talk with Dad, so please continue washing. Okay. As Rika Frude, I replied cheerfully, but I was feeling a bit uncomfortable. If there was something she had to talk to my father about, she had plenty of chance to do so over dinner. While making me do the washing, they go in the entry hall, just the two of them. That's suspicious. I really should just do the dishwashing obediently, but I'm unable to restrain the curiosity welling up inside of me. I go to spy on my parents' conversation at the entry hall, stealthily smothering my footsteps. The one talking is my mother. Her tone is not cheerful. And then, it seems Dr. Yamamoto was consulting a big hospital at the city for us. According to the doctor, maybe it's more mental instead of physical brain. He said there's a splendid doctor at the hospital. As I thought, I shouldn't have told him at all. At the school infirmary, Yamamoto didn't promise not to tell the story to anyone. Yamamoto probably talked to my parents right after I left, and told them their daughter was saying preposterous things. Yamamoto probably explained that, being all alone, I was emotionally cornered and ended up mentally ill. If I think about the contents of what I told him, there might as well be a fairly conscientious explanation. Did you talk to Rika directly? I plan to do that afterwards. Tomorrow, the doctor will come all of a sudden and we'll go to the hospital. Well, it looks like we're cheating her, to be honest. But you know, when I think about her feelings, I understand. All her close friends moved away and she was left alone here. I wish I'd taken those feelings of hers into consideration. Rika was saying the whole time she wanted to move since the beginning, without time to sort out those feelings being arbitrarily repressed. What time will Dr. Yamamoto come tomorrow? He said he'd come in the evening, but I didn't ask for the hour. He said he'd like a father to be present as well, if possible. In the evening, I'll be at the assembly hall, but when Dr. Yamamoto comes, please call me. Understood. Don't lose heart. I understand Rika's feelings when she suggests she wants to go back to the old world, but can't be helped anymore. The story between the village and the government has already been settled. In that case, I'd like to at least make sure she can remember the fun memories before anything else when she remembers that she was living in Hinamizawa. That's right. It's already time, so I'm going. I leave Rika in your care. Yes, take care. I return with the same stealthy footsteps as from before, but maybe the floorboards creaked. And while she returned to the kitchen, my mother said with a seemingly discouraged voice, "Were you listening, Rika? Today, you know, I received a phone call from Dr. Yamamoto. He told me about the story you discussed with him, Rika. Blabbing about people's secrets. That Yamamoto was a bad guy." Turn this down a little bit. "I'm sorry, Rika. You wanted to live in this village forever, didn't you?" Pardon me. I feel that I didn't end up thinking about your feelings enough and ended up throwing lots of harsh words at you. It's alright. I don't mind about those things at all. The Rika Frude in this world should be the one to hear the mother's apology. Since it's not a thing for me to accept, I refuse it. but my mother continued to apologise on her own. I tried to refuse her further, but I quit. It's not my turn. I should withdraw. At that time, I felt that I'd faded. At the same time, I felt both of my eyes getting hot. Later, the world was hazy to me. While crying, I'm burying my face in my mother's chest. And then, my mother too was crying while embracing my head. If I could disappear like this, maybe Rika Furude's life as well. After that, as though missing her childhood days, my mother told me many stories about Hinamizawa. She told me how this place and that place were during her childhood. She told me that this or that happened and didn't happen. While she tells me these stories, we comfort each other, saying we'll always keep this village we love so much in our hearts. Then, when Mum was a child, the elders of the village treasured me so much. They did that because they believed Mum was Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation? I've never told Rika this, but there's an old legend in the Furude family. A legend that says, if the firstborn child is a girl for 8 generations straight, that girl will be Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. And that one, you see, is Mum. It's not me. Rika too is the girl and the firstborn child, but you're the 9th generation. I wonder if our family is matrilineal. Mum is the 8th generation. I'm Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. But this is a secret, right? We can't say it to anyone. That's why the only ones who knew this thing were the late grandma, I, and Rika. It's a secret just between Mum and Rika, right? To prove a relationship of mutual trust, there are times when girls share their secrets with each other. To my mother, that was the purpose of a little secret that could be used for things of that degree. But to me, it's different. Before Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation, the 8th generation after 8 generations straight of girls, Hanyuu could show her figure for the first time. However, the Rika Furude of this world isn't the 8th generation. She's not Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. Because of that, Hanyuu can't appear before the Rika of this world. At that time, I felt my mother's chest when I buried my face warmer. No, just a bit hotter. Hot? No. It's this sign of power similar to Hanyuu's. It's because this is a secret. Now that my grandma is dead, only my mother knows that she is Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. In other words, it means that if my mother is gone, the fragment that represents the Oyashiro-sama's incarnation in this world will vanish. Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation... I'm gonna have to, repass that. Now that Grandma is dead, only my mother knows that she's Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation, so that if she's gone, the fragment that represents that reincarnation, which already exists in this world, will vanish. My warm tears come to a halt, and in the depths of despair, I felt both my eyes becoming dry. It's my mother. My mother is carrying the fragment. What is the meaning of that? If it was possible, I don't want to remember it for eternity. That, I have to say, is pretty shitty. When I tried to use it during the day when I was with Yamamoto, the power hadn't recovered enough yet to be able to talk to Hanyuu. Since then, only half a day had passed, but if it's inside the ritual toolsheds, maybe it'll be able to work. Hanyuu once said something like, the atmosphere of ancient times remains inside the ritual toolshed, so it's comfortable in there. Maybe it means something like, inside that shed, Hanyuu's powers are at full. If that's the case, then the barely sufficient power of the crystal globe might be bolstered if it's inside the ritual toolshed. Late at night, I slip out from under the covers and go into the shed. Bear with me. Just a hot second. Okay. Cool, right. We're now on the 3rd episode if we were watching the anime. So I I'm going to save now. I want to talk to Hanyuu no matter what. I go to the altar in front of the Goshintai and speak to the crystal globe. Can you hear me? Hanyuu? The crystal globe's light is frail, but it definitely still has its supernatural radiance. Please, let me hear your voice. The wish got through and she replied with a low voice, one that seemed to be about to disappear. I can hear you, Rika. Hanyuu, what a relief. Listen, I don't know what I should do. I don't know. It's not time to be crying. I have to tell Hanyuu everything I know and ask for her opinion. I swallowed my pride and informed her that the fragment was inside my mother. For a while, Hanyuu became speechless. Naturally, to return that fragment to the world of the gods, we were aware I'd have to kill my mother. I understand. You show up in front of Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. I understand. You show up in front of Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. Since I'm not the 8th generation in this world, you can't appear in front of me. Being the 9th generation doesn't work, right? Ugh. There we go. Sorry, as always, instantly distracted. Being the 9th generation doesn't work, right? It's something from long ago. Part of the past, so long ago, even I almost forgot. It's a story of when Hanyuu lived in Hinamizawa. A story from before Hanyuu was revered as Oyashiro-sama. In the other world, even if I asked Hanyuu, she'd never tell me about it. It was a story about the beginning of everything. It was when I decided to become a god. My daughter, Rika's ancestor, was very sad about that, because she knew that the reason I made my decision was because I'd lost faith in the human world. I undertook all the sins of the human world, because there was no way to purify the sins other than having someone else take them on. Thus, people pushed their sins onto another and lived ugly lives. With all the ugliness before me, I lost my faith in this world. I undertook all the sins of the human world, purifying them by making a person kill me. So here's a fun fact. Let me turn this down slightly. Oops, there we go. It's really loud to me, but I know it doesn't where else. I'm trying to remember the name of the game. Here we go. So it is Kotohogushi. There we go, got there eventually. Which is one of the console arcs, and it's the one console arc that hasn't yet been translated, and it's also one of the ones that I most want to play, because it like fully explains Hanyuu's backstory. The other like series that I desperately really want to play is the 3 extra chapters that we got in Ho. Basically this was originally released in Ray, and then there were a bunch of console re-releases, and then there was the PC re-release, Ho, which had H-O-U, I don't know how to pronounce that, Ho, which had the main 8 arcs, the Saikoroshi and the other 2 comedy arcs in Ray, and then 3 new arcs, 2 of which like follow each other, and one of which is like a beta version of Higurashi, like the original version, which I really want to play. It sounds really fascinating, and the other 2 do as well, and I desperately want to play those. And I'm here, like, so Ho is the version that Manga Game is translating, the official translations, and I'm sitting here like shaking Manga Game, like, please hurry up and just get to the later ones. Want to do Hinamizawa, but stop, and then Higurashi Outbreak. Anyway. Undertook all of the sins of the human world, purifying them by making a person kill me. I entrusted the role of killing me to my own daughter. I thought that if I'd not given her that role, my daughter too would be despised as the daughter of the demon god, and probably lose faith in the human world too. My daughter hated such a role, but she understood the weight of her own mission, and in the end accomplished it. But my daughter said this: I'll rebuild this world, which can only purify the sins of men by exchanging the value of a life. The people will band together, and with the power of cooperation, will help one another. definitely turn this world into the ideal place my mother dreamed of, she said to me. So mother, please don't lose faith in the human world. That sorrow, I will definitely heal it for you. But I became a god. I could no longer accept my daughter's feelings. No, the truth is different. Since I'd lost faith in the squalid human world, I just didn't want to see it anymore. But my daughter promised me, with strong conviction, that she'd rebuild the human world. Then I shall believe your feelings. When, in this land, people spend their time cheerfully, help each other, support each other, and manage to think as one, I shall return to this land once more. My daughter killed me and ruled the village carrying the supernatural powers of the demon god. I guess that's why... Oh, really loud, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to audio there. So I guess that's why in the previous world, Hanyuu appeared to Rika, because it was Rika's generation who, like, worked together to solve problems eventually. Whereas in this world it was Rika's parents' generation who worked together to solve the problem of, like, the dispute and, like, arranged like a thing that would work for them. Return to this land once more. My daughter killed me and ruled the village carrying the supernatural powers of the demon god. She led the people and constructed a creed so that they would believe and help each other. At the same time, she made them feel fear. If there's a heart in discord, the demon god will definitely be resurrected and a curse will happen. Making the most out of my purification, she guided the people with severity so that the exorcised sins would never be revived in the village again. And then the village took back a temporary peace, but my return did not happen, because the force with which I refused the world was too great. However, what kind of refusing force it was would be impossible for that force to endure for eternity. Be it a heart, be it a wall, be it a lid, be it a door, there's nothing that doesn't decay with time. Even the force shutting the gap between the world of men and the world of gods doesn't last forever. From the oracle of a higher ranked god, my daughter discovered that the force has a limit, and heard that when the firstborn child of the Furude family were to be a girl for 8 generations straight, I would return. The miracle of the firstborn child, being a girl for 8 generations straight, became the key, and the force with which I refused the human world is broken. My daughter left that to become the family's folklore, and so that this land would continue to be my ideal land by that day, she was succeeded by her descendants. And that's why, Rika, when you were born as the 8th generation, I could have a point of contact with the human world again. Certainly, a long time ago, I hated the human world and I ignored it. However, even if 1,000 years of isolation has healed my sorrow, it's still too much time. Instead, before I noticed, I came to feel sorrow in a world where I was unable to have contact with anyone. The 1,000 years I intended to be refusal from my part were 1,000 years that seemed like a punishment locking me. I realised I'd hated and lost faith in the human world because of frivolous feelings. And then, when I started to realise this, girls started to be born in the Furude family one after another. When your mother became pregnant, do you know how much I prayed, wishing for you to be a girl? I can imagine. After all, I feel that the first face I ever saw was not my mother's, but yours. Maybe these 1,000 years were a punishment to me for having turned my back on the human world. Humans live in the human world, and they have to try their best in the world that they're born in. Maybe the ones who make light of that and try to part with the world have to receive a punishment, like 1,000 years of banishment. Those words from Hanyuu are heavy. Ugh. My throat is the painful. Oops. Those words from Hanyuu are heavy. Maybe I, who comfortably walked through many worlds and even compared my own life to the dice, am sinful. I shared a life with you. You're the friend and the daughter I obtained after 1,000 years. And then we ran into the dead end of 1983, and I committed a sin again. In order to change your fate, I used my power. You mean that, in the very first world, we should have just accepted the fate of dying with my belly cut open by Takano? It may sound cruel to you, Rika, but that's what I've come to believe. I made light of the world in which I lived. and I even made light of the world that Rika lived in. I should have lived wisely together with you in that world, and accepted that as the end, in spite of the way it happened. Stop it. You may get satisfaction from self-flagellation, but it holds none for me. I was supposed to have shared 100 years' journey with you, saying, I don't want to surrender to a fate like that. Let's keep on fighting till we reach a better future. To suggest this kind of thing at the very end is crazy. That's your sentimentalism. And now you want to make light of the world we grasped at the end of those 100 years I spent together with you too. It's quite convenient, isn't it? To feel proud for saving a beast going to death is a human sin. The snowy mountains killed the beast and submit several to the gods. After all this time, you want to suggest that my death was fate too? What's wrong with you? No matter what you say, the world we achieved is the crystallization of our efforts. Only you and I should know the radiance it holds. Will you deny that world now? Rika, let's return to the topic at hand. When I fully enjoyed this world together with you, the 8th generation, I intended to disappear with the end of your life. Since it doesn't have anything to do with your life, I'd never told you about this. In that world, your mother is the 8th generation. In other words, that is the world of after I'd already had a point of contact with the human world. Was satisfied with the wonderful Hinamizawa, and then ascended to a higher plane. It's a world where I already vanished. That's why I can't appear there. But the fragment of your world slipped into that place, and it was in my mother. In other words, it might be like this. Only my mother knows that she's the 8th generation. If I kill her, contradiction that doesn't allow you to appear will disappear, correct? That's right. Normally, the fact that Rika's mother is the 8th generation of that world is evident, and it wouldn't change just by killing your mother. However, to Rika, who drifted from a different world, it's no different than a mooring rope tying a boat. It's a blessing that your mother was the only person who knew that fact. There were others. Rika would have to have killed each and every one of them. Rika probably wanted my opinion about whether she should kill her mother to return to that former world, or if she should remain in this world. That's right. I've been investigating the world Rika's in all along to discover what kind of world it is. And then I understood the truth about that place, and was expecting this day to arrive soon. So I was also expecting that a conflicted Rika would consult with me, and would try to choose a world accepting the consequences. That's why I was worried. Worried about how I'd guide you. Apart from the language of the gods, the words of the human realm are limited. No matter how carefully I choose my words, the meaning they convey will only be partial. I was really worried about how I should speak in order to let you make the right choice. And even now I'm worried, because you're entrusting the decision to me. Even if I suggested this one world, I'd feel like choosing that one, while shifting the responsibility of the price to pay for that onto me. There is no meaning to a life which has been chosen for you. As a person who's voyaged to many worlds and left her footprints outside the human realm, you must take the responsibility for your own decision, without relying on me, with your own power. I understand what you want to say. This happened because you did as I said. I can't help doing such responsibility shifting after all. Decide about your life by yourself? I can at least understand when you say this much. So, right. Trying to pass this again. Translation's good, but it ain't great. So, Hanyuu knew that Rika would come to her trying to choose a world, and was worried about how she would guide Rika because she can't like convey her meaning through words, and doesn't know how to make the right know how to convey that. And it's just saying, you can't entrust the decision to me, because there's no meaning to a life which has been chosen for you, and as somebody who has stepped outside of the human realm, you must take the decision yourself. Then Rika says, I understand what you want to say. This happened because I did as you said. I can't help doing such responsibility shifting after all. So that's Rika saying, you know, she inherently tries to shift the blame to other people, and she understands decide about your life by yourself. I wanted to say this. I was happy for being able to spend a life together with Rika, and then I shared many worlds with you and got to know that Hinamizawa was full of kindness and support. The world I desired was entirely fulfilled, so I wanted to tell you this. Even if Rika chooses a world where I don't exist and I end up just disappearing, I'll be happy. Hanyuu. Hanyuu had already foreseen this. The headache sure is on its way in, huh? They said to themselves. She foresaw that I would have warmed to this world. But Hanyuu's existence itself contradicts the world that I'm in. Consulting with Hanyuu, a being of the former world, no matter how much we talk, it will only make it harder for me to give up on the former world. As long as I consult with Hanyuu, I won't be able to choose the world impartially. She was anticipating that much. So she says this: I want to accept the fate I'll meet through Rika Fude's choice. You shouldn't worry about me and live in the world that you like best. If I were to choose to live in this world, what would happen to you? Our long journey would meet its end at the rules of that world. In other words, Rika will have a life in that world, and then the truth that you exist and I do not will become reality. In other words, you'll just disappear, won't you? However, it's a very pleasant thing. Seems like Rika thinks that that's my death. In the beginning, I too thought that the me of that world was dead, but the Hanyuu of that world, even though she ended up disappearing, she was full of joy. She shared life together with your mother and spent fun times with her. You're gonna have to bear with me a second. I'm gonna get a painkiller. I'm reaching into a drawer and it's just full of medicine. Every day I suffer. Ow. I had this moment of terror. I took the painkiller, bumped my lip piercing, and had this moment of terror that the top wall had come off, and I was about to swallow it. I just got really, really scared for a hot second. But it's okay. Didn't happen. Spent fun times with her. Your mother is still alive, but the me of that world continues to dream inside a deep sleep from which you won't awaken, while being wrapped in warmth and kindness. That warmth and that comfort certainly resembles the interior of the womb of a mother before you are born to this world. Since I realised that, I've been wondering if Rika wouldn't accept that world instead. Are you serious? If Rika tried to live 1,000 years, you too would come to understand this warmth. I could feel a trance from Hanyuu's words. Having lived for 1,000 years, Hanyuu understands situations that I can't. Okay. This isn't a joke. I've only lived a mere 100 years, so I can't understand. Rika, that's enough. Please stop running away from the choices using me as an excuse. That's true. The former world and this world are being weighed on the balance inside my heart, and none of them tips the scale even a bit. Ugh. Sorry, that's just how I feel at the moment. Just, yeah. Shown by that expression. And I'm irresponsibly trying to shift the responsibility to Hanyuu, making her choose for me. To help Rika decide, allow me to tell you everything I know about that world. Firstly, the one who taught us again and again that fate could be defeated, Keiichi Maebara. In this world, he doesn't transfer to Hinamizawa. I already know that. He wasn't in class. For a little while, Keiichi became slightly depressed from the stress of the studies, but he didn't shoot children with a model gun as in our world. He strengthened his heart, stared down that temptation, and finally managed to overcome the weakness in his heart. Keiichi is now trying his hardest to deal with the examinations that await him, as a strong-willed person who can be proud of himself. Means Keiichi-san doesn't exist, so he doesn't move here. Reina Ryugu too, since her parents' company doesn't go bankrupt, she didn't move to Ibaraki. Therefore, the divorce doesn't occur either. Therefore, Reina doesn't feel guilty for that. Reina doesn't have a sin. Sonozaki Mion and Sonozaki Shion didn't change places on the day of the ceremony to tattoo the back of the next family head. I see. For some reason, I was feeling like the Mion of that school had something different about her. Even though she's supposed to love board games, she was speaking like her younger sister was more knowledgeable on them. I see. Now I understand. So, Mion doesn't push the position of heir to the family onto her younger sister, or the day's training to be the head. and Shion is alone in a distant academy. And even today, she's trying her best there so she can support her sister from the shadows without being a hindrance to the head house. My god, my brain. So the Mion that we know was born as Mion, whom in the previous world is known as Shion. I constantly get them mixed up in my head. If Mion is A and Shion is B, their actual bodies, what they were born as, in the previous world, the cycle that we've been living in, body A and body B swapped names, so body A became Shion and body A became Mion. No, I've got mixed up. 1 and 2, let's say. 1 became Shion, 2 became Mion. But in this world, they're swapped back, so the person that we know as Shion is body B. The person that we know in this world that we're existing in is Mion is body A. But personality-wise, the Mion we know in this world probably has more of like previous world Shion's. My god, this is so confusing. Oh, brain. Formerly, the sisters felt guilty for each other because the tattoo mix-up. It means it doesn't happen here. Mion and Shion don't have a sin. Probably there isn't an A to say this at this point, but Satoko Hojo doesn't have the sin of murdering her parents. So I'm trying to also work out their sins. So Mion and Shion's sin is accidentally is swapping with each other. Reina feels like her sin is that she causes her parents divorce, even though she really doesn't. Keiichi's sin obviously is shooting kids. And what's ours? Don't know. Probably there isn't a need to say this at this point, but Satoko Hojo doesn't have the sin of murdering her parents. Satoko deepened her relationship with her father-in-law, and with that helped build a strong family. Because of that, she wasn't possessed by the parasite. Hojo family also doesn't oppose the village and doesn't become banished either. Satoko doesn't have a sin. No, to Satoko's family, this place might be the ideal world. To Satoko's family? No, that's not it. The world to everyone is an ideal world. The reason Keiichi didn't come to Hinamizawa was because he didn't commit a sin. Without that sin, it means Keiichi is just trying his best to live his life. Reina too. Since the sad fate is avoided, she doesn't impose a sin upon herself as well. She calls herself Reina, the name given to her, and lives happily. Mion and Shion are leading a happy life too. If only the tattoo incident hadn't happened, those two would have been close sisters by nature. Due to family customs, now they're forced to live separately, but probably because of that, their relationship with those two won't fall apart. To Satoko, this world is certainly a world inside an ideal dream. She still has a brother and a warm family, and is leading a healthy and comfortable life. As a close friend, this is the world I'd have to wish the most for her. To Satoshi, this world is the only one where he can be present. Among many worlds, this place is the only world I found where Satoshi can exist. This world is the only one possible for Satoshi. Okay. And then Rika Furude. To Rika Furude, this world is maybe the number of friends I have is 0. Compared to the old world, this one is very sad. But maybe from this point on, it'd be possible to improve it with time and effort. Keiichi's absence may be sad, but Keiichi is living with courage, living a different life that he used to live. In his place, Satoshi is here. He's a different type of person from Keiichi, but he's a very gentle and considerate person. And for the club that I was disappointed in not existing, if I go to school tomorrow and wish for it, it will start immediately. The Hojo siblings, Mion, Reina and I. And will it include other classmates as well? I wonder how much fun this club will be. Updating the title of stream to Going Home, maybe? Question mark. I'm sure there'll be no way to compare it to the one where I had fun with Keiichi and the others. My hair keeps getting snagged on my headphones. Certainly it won't be possible to say that one is better than the other. This world has my parents, and I'm already understanding how to get along with them as Rika Furude, retrieving this family's love too. The former world doesn't have my parents, but there are bustling people living together with me who don't let me feel down about that. Satoko and Hanyuu. If I choose this world, Hanyuu, who I can call a close friend who shared 100 years together with me, will be separated from me. Close friend? No. If the stories Hanyuu speaks of are true, Hanyuu is my ancestor, a person who is a mother too. In other words, she is my family, just as much as my mother and father. My parents and Hanyuu were both very precious to me. I can't put them on a balance and weigh them. That world is the ideal world created by someone's dream. None of the people close to you have a sin. That is very, very pure, limpid and beautiful world. In that world, I've already vanished and I'm not a stain on Rika's life anymore. So I also don't have a sin. And you, Rika, since you're not staining your own life, you don't have a sin either. Even that Takano doesn't have a sin. Absolutely nobody has a sin. It's a pure white world. That's right. Now, you can choose that world, Rika. Maybe this is a precious chance a god of fate's dice, unknown to me, has granted to you at the end of your 100 years journey. I wish he'd been a bit more merciful with me. That's why that god gave you a road to return to the former world as well. By committing the greater sin that is matricide, you choose to have yourself banished from that sinless paradise. I've absolutely forgotten how to speak out loud. I was about to say sinless. Oh, no. Must skip OST, please. Anyway, what I meant to say was I definitely almost accidentally said Sinless Paradise there. Sinless Parasite, Jesus Christ. I can't even say the word that I said accidentally anymore. Is this the true meaning of brain empty, no thoughts? Hanyuu, you said you made your daughter kill you. What do you think about me repeating matricide just so that I can choose my own life? If it was Rika's mother, she'd probably say it like this. If my daughter can be happy, I'd be happy to give my own life. Rika doesn't understand yet. It's a feeling you only understand when you have a child and become a mother. Since I once was a mother, I understand. If Rika could say she was happier in the former world, her mother would probably give you her life with pleasure. Don't you tell me. There's no way I'd say a thing like that to her, you know? She'd only say, "Is your head alright?" and then shout at me hysterically. But I remember my mother's smile when we were making curry together. If they came from the mouth of that mother, I wonder if I'd be surprised with dreadful words like that. I don't regret having made my daughter kill me. Thanks to that, the sins that could have been taken over by my daughter were purified. If my life had been spared, my daughter too could have been persecuted like I was. But have you ever thought about the feelings of the daughter who killed you? The one who died had it more comfortable, right? You can be enraptured on devoted virtue and enter nirvana on your own. But you know, the one who killed you goes on living for a long time, shouldering that cross. Didn't you say earlier that the daughter who killed you vowed to create a Hinamizawa where your spirit of cooperation dwelled for your sake? And then, for 1,000 years, your daughter and her people had to get along with your sin. You didn't have to die, did you? I don't know what kind of sin you had to shoulder, but you should have lived and fought. You should have fought so that your descendants wouldn't need to shoulder your sin. Even so, you surrendered, and because of that, for 1,000 years, your descendants continued to shoulder your cross. Isn't that so? Hanyuu silences. That was unmistakably Hanyuu's sin. To die for your daughter is easy, but the heart that feels guilty for her daughter left behind can never be healed. However, there was no hesitation in the words she returned. Then, Rika, you say I should have lived and fought, but now that you're in that world, what will you do? Will you accept the reality of being in that world and decide to live there, all the while fighting against some discomfort alien to the former world? And abandoning the world you grasped at the end of 100 years, stained in dirt and sweat and beautiful? Certainly this world might be beautiful, but just because of that, it doesn't mean that the radiance of my world isn't pretty. There's no reason for the fate I achieved at the end of the journey to that extent to not be beautiful. And even now you call that world you grasped at the end of 100 years my world. In that case, no matter how comfortable this world is, you should throw it all away, brush away your will to remain in this world and go back to the former. Am I wrong? Even if you have to wreck this world where people close to you are free from all their sins. You told me to fight, my daughter. Then you too should fight. To fight is not to throw down and overcome an obstacle before one's eyes. In the end, that is nothing but a mere diversion midway through a forked road. To truly fight means to make your own choices. In every choice of life, in every forked road, people hesitate. Sorry. A choice made when one of the paths is brightly shown and you proceed that way is not a fight. No matter how many times that choice is pressed onto you, you'll always choose the same way, so it's inevitable. A real choice is when you feel right from the bottom of your heart and don't know at all which of the two paths to choose. It's exactly the same as when feigning a box game before. You told me about a choice between the red box and the blue box. To choose the red box or the blue box? To make a choice without any kind of guidance, you need to be very brave and decided. You must choose the same way, it's inevitable. So you feel right in the bottom of your heart. Okay. That is the very true choice. If you already know what's inside the box, it won't be a choice anymore. When you don't know what's inside both boxes, you can be satisfied with the thing that was inside the box you opened. When you know the contents of the opposite box, depending on the situation, you might feel disappointed. Being left in a forked road without any guidance, without any hint, is what life is. To lazily keep on choosing the right-hand side is okay. To suitably decide it with a botashi game is okay too. To eagerly search for hints, to be all worried over how much more advantageous each side, left or right, is, and stand still on the forked road indefinitely is okay. Consequently, you can accept the result that awaits for you in the end as your own responsibility, can't you? Could it be that even after growing old, dying and going into a coffin, there'll be need of a parent's advice? Worry, choose, and advance. The very thing is the fight. I was earnestly worried and chose my own life. My daughter's people too were earnestly worried and chose their own life. That is a sacred thing, a very important thing to anyone. A descendant of 1,000 years later must not stay in that. The people who lived at that age are eternally beautiful. You must not talk about that way to live with the values of the posterior era. Don't understand what the sentence is trying to say? Lastly, I'll tell you a very important thing. The power of that kami no mikotonori that links us very soon will be forever lost. I'll not interfere with that world for eternity. You mean that receiving such an edifying sermon will be only tonight, huh? And one more thing. The fragment that appeared in Rika's mother will forever lose its power by the sunset of tomorrow. Losing the power doesn't mean it'll disappear. It means the chance to be able to take back the fragment with your own hands will be lost forever, Rika. In other words, it means my option to return to the former world too will disappear if I don't decide until tomorrow's evening, huh? Does it mean I don't have the third choice of putting the choice on hold? No. You can also choose to run away from the choice, purposefully close your eyes in that last hour, and passively remain in that world. Don't you think that by doing that, you'd have a different way of life from the case if you'd chosen it actively? To choose actively or not, in other words, whether I accepted this world or not. If I continue to live here without having accepted it, I'll probably live eternally dragging along my anguishes of now. Compared to that, maybe choosing one of them would be much more noble. But there's no way I could choose that nobility so easily. That anguish is the very fight, says Hanyuu. Come on, Rika, fight. That fight will last until tomorrow's sunset. But please don't run away, because no matter which world you pick, their world will definitely be wonderful. As wonderful as the world you fought to a bitter end over 100 years to obtain. The world you chose fighting to the bitter end will definitely become wonderful. So Rika, be sure not to choose any one of them without fighting. Because people will never be satisfied with the consequences of choices they don't worry over. Thank you, Hanyuu. I'll try to fight with this choice. If I can meet you again, it'll be at the former world. If I choose this world, then rest at ease and heal your 1,000 years fatigue. Thank you for everything up until now. I'm truly grateful. Thanks to your power, I could start my life over many times, and I've been misunderstanding that. I'm sure that even if I'd lived in the former world, it had become kind of strange. I feel I simply thought, if I trip in something, even just a little, I should just start over. There's no way that would become a wonderful world, is it? In that sense, I can understand even just a little the guilt that made you say you shouldn't use his power on me. However, it was also a sin of mine to treat my life so carelessly. I wasted my own life by choosing not to try in many worlds. I think that this world taught me the weight of my life. In the end, whichever world I choose, it'll be a wonderful world. I'm really lucky, am I not? I'm the most fortunate person in many worlds. Thank you, Hanyuu. Thank you very much for speaking warm words until the very end to me, a fool who doesn't know her own place. I'll think very hard. I'll think about this choice, and I'll grab a really, really wonderful world. So again, thank you, Hanyuu. Hey, please answer me? Now the crystal globe has gone cold, so that by the light of my flashlight, only a bored reflection appeared on its surface. Soundtrack is... I've already spilled all the tears I'm able to, because I thought that if I didn't, I'd end up hesitating when it comes time to make a choice. So I cried with all my heart, and thanked the bond we shared for 100 years, because depending on my choice, I might not be able to say those words anymore. Ugh, it's a really nice song, but you cannot hear it at all due to my terrible ability at managing audio. The crystal globe had returned to being a mere marble. I returned it to its pedestal and snuck out of the ritual tool shed, crawling back to my bed. There's no way I can sleep. Even though I was feeling that, when I was wrapped up in my blanket, I felt the cool wind on the tips of my feet. Before I realised it, I was falling asleep. Rika Frude gradually falls asleep. I gradually fall asleep. Good night, everyone. Good night, me. Let's do unsave. The sun rises once more, and Rika Frude's wonderful day starts. Rika Frude takes the first step of a small endeavour in order to become friends again with her classmates. And back at home, she's covered in much love from her parents. And then the sun that shone upon that wonderful day hung over the shade of the mountain and gradually disappeared. Once upon a time, when God still appeared in front of people, bread came falling from the sky. A number complained because it was not meat. Meat came falling from the sky. A number complained that bread was better. Whoops, loud music. God came down from the sky. Until he understands what makes everyone happy, for the time being, he'll make water fall from the sky. Rain came falling from the sky. Everyone complained, saying that their clothes will get wet. God, why can't... Just want soft music. Fire came from the sky. Okay, fine, no music. Everyone complained that the houses would burn. God came down from the sky, and to some make everyone happy, decided not to have anything at all. Nothing came down falling from the sky. A number complained that they were abandoned by God. Many came falling from the sky. A number complained, wanting God to choose the things that would fall. A huge rain of rocks came falling from the sky. With this, the voices of complaint finally disappeared. Rain came falling from the sky. A traveller passing by feels thankful. Would like to read the rest of that poem, but I appear not to be able to. So let's see if I can. Does it have the poem? Okay, here we go. Okay. Make water fall down for a time, until everyone knows what will make them happy. Rain fell down from heaven. Everyone lamented loudly that the clothing became wet. Flames fell from heaven. Everyone lamented loudly that the houses had been burned. God came down from heaven. He'll make nothing fall down from heaven until everyone knows what will make them happy. Nothing fell down from heaven. Some lamented loudly that God had forsaken them. All manner of things fell down from heaven. Now some lamented loudly that God should be more selective in what he sent. Boulders rained down from heaven. Now the lamentations finally ceased. Rain fell down from heaven. Passing travellers expressed their gratitude. God, we thank thee for the unexpected weather. Now we can carry on our long journey and enjoy the break from monotony. God saw them off without a word. As it should be. Gods and dice are best when silent. Gods and dice are best when silent is a very good line. Do you know who I am, Rika? No. Where am I? When I answered, the nurse exaggeratedly astonished and ran off. What a rude woman. Where's Dr. Irie? Call him as soon as possible. Please tell him that Rika has recovered consciousness. My head hurts. What a relief, what a relief. Do you remember what happened? Is this place the clinic? That's right. On the way back to Hinamizawa with your friends, you hit your head in an accident and were unconscious for a long time. At this rate, I was afraid you wouldn't wake up. What a relief, what a relief. Irie said that, with a hint of tears in his eye. I was still a bit afraid. I wanted to make sure whether or not this world was the place, this place was the world that I knew well. So I gathered my courage and asked Irie. Yes, all your friends too were very worried about you. Satoko, obviously, and also Maebara, Mion, and Reina. I'm sorry to say, but Satoshi isn't in any condition to wake up yet, though. What about my mother? Seems your memories are still a bit confused. It's not uncommon when one has been unconscious for a long time. She dead? Yes, on the day of Watanagashi, 2 years ago. Were you having a dream about your mother while you were sleeping? Thank you. I'm fine now. The fact that my mother is dead mixes my feelings a bit. But this place certainly seemed to be the world I know well. And by what Irie said, it seemed like it's been little over a month since the day of the accident. Leaving me with an "I'll be right back," Irie noisily rushed out the sick room. I was left on the hospital bed, my ears filled by the voices of cicadas, and for a while I did nothing but retrace my vague memories. I was falling around on my bike on the way back from playing at the pool with everyone and was hit by a truck. Is that it? But I remember about the world that I woke up in clearly too. And now, the fact that this place in the former world means that after that harsh choice I had to make, I chose the former world and finished my long journey back in safety. Or, like Irie said, it was a long dream I had while in an accident-induced coma. I don't know. Hanyuu, are you there? Oh, what a relief. Whenever I wake up in a new world, I'm always scared that you won't show up. Did that ever happen before? Whenever Rika wakes up, I'm always by your side. Hanyuu says that with an affectionate expression. But when she said that, it made me remember the world I was in just now instead. After all, it was a world where Hanyuu wasn't there right after I woke up. Hanyuu, was that world a dream? Or was that reality? I don't really understand what you're talking about. Did something happen? Are you serious? I don't know what Rika's saying. Couldn't tell if Hanyuu was playing dumb or if she really didn't know what I was talking about. Then, what was that world that I was in just a while ago? A dream? A dream. Hanyuu replies immediately. Hearing that blunt reply, I'm sure that sinless world was not a dream or anything like that. Then I, with my own hands, my mother had the fragment. Okay, there we go. My mother had the fragment, so I wasn't supposed to be able to come back to the previous world if I hadn't killed her. The fact that I'm here right now means I have killed my mother. And then, in order to kill my mother, in order to send myself back to the world of the gods, I have to kill myself, like always. And then, conveniently when I die, my memories of what happened just before it retrocede and are gone. So, not remembering that I killed my mother is natural. While shivering in fear, I look at the palms of both hands. They're pale, pure white. No, that's why. I can remember the feel of that warm, thick, viscous liquid spreading all over these hands. Fragments well up inside me. Something in me desperately stops my memories of the other world. While I sense the scream surfaces, I desperately try to stop it. Because when it begins to overflow, I'm sure it'll end up swallowing me. It makes sense that her memories of being killed, and then in this case killing her mother and then herself, disappear, because I feel like the memories of being senselessly murdered 99 times, because even in the worlds where she's killed by Shion, it's in a pretty nasty way. The memories of those would just like, that would fuck you up, I think. Rika, calm down. When Hanyuu put a hand on my forehead, I felt like the bottom of my lungs were being grabbed. A feeling of suffocation, like my breaths were being tightly grasped and squeezed. However, since the sentiment trying to swallow me too was being tightly grasped, it cannot grow any further. In exchange for the choking, I firmly swallow the pulling sentiment, and little by little take back my composure. When she senses that, Hanyuu lets her hand go. Did you calm down? Since Rika was sleeping for a long time, you might be confused. You should drink your medicine and rest for a while, as Irie told you. Hanyuu, tell me, was that world really, Look, everyone's here. I might bother you, so I'll disappear for a while. Hanyuu. I can hear the sound of many people running noisily on the corridor. Hanyuu disappears into thin air, turning her back. As though taking her place, the sick room's door opens loudly, and the cloud members that I love so much appear. Rika! Rika! Satoko! Hey, Satoko. Rika's still sleepy. You shouldn't cling to her all of a sudden. It's okay, Keiichi. I'm so relieved, so relieved. After trying to cling to me, Satoko's tears overflowed, and she cried with no hesitation. Welcome back, Rika. We knew you'd come back to us. Yeah. After all, miracles occur when we believe strongly enough. We managed to succeed even that friggin' awesome battle with Takano and a bunch, all because we believed in the miracle. Everyone believed that Rika would definitely come back. We visited every day. We believed you'd definitely wake up the next day, and kept coming to visit you each day. What a relief, what a relief. Manager was saying your memories were a bit messed up. Then I thought, it can't be, but you're not forgetting about Uncle Mion here and the others, right? I recognise Satoko, Reina, and Keiichi, but I don't recognise Mion. Mipa! She looks just fine to me. If this place is the former world, I shouldn't be asking this. But to make sure if it's really that world, I'll pretend my memories are confused and ask. Satoshi didn't come? While making a kind of lonely face, Satoko says, Mimi ran away from home last year and hasn't come back, right? My, how forgetful you've become. My chest creaks tightly with that face of hers. There's no doubt she was the Satoko of the former world. I see. Indeed, her memories are a little scrambled. I heard it's transient, so there's nothing to worry about. It's like when you receive a phone call when you wake up and half asleep you end up saying strange things. That's right. After all, you were a big sleepyhead for nearly an entire month. During that 1 month, I felt like I had a dream. We were so worried, and yet all along you were comfortably in dream world, huh? I felt that place was a very strange world. It took place in Hinamizawa, but lots of things were different. Firstly, Keiichi wasn't there. Hey, come on, don't just leave me out like that. Well, that's because it was the world where Keiichi wasn't involved in that toy gun incident. A world where the incident you regretted so much didn't happen. No, that's not all. I realised that now was the only opportunity I had to confess my own sins. While hearing my story about that world, every time a detail differs, everyone reacted in various ways, but they listened obediently and carefully to me. Now, I think the reason I'm here was because I weighed the two worlds and chose this one. Perhaps you were on the other side of the river Styx. Sounds like a near-death experience to me. If you'd chosen the world on the other side, probably you wouldn't have come back. If I'd chosen the other side, I'm sure I wouldn't have come back. All of us believed that Rika would come back, and since you also believed you'd come back, our two hands probably reached each other. I guess that, while sleeping, Rika too made a great effort to come back. That's great! Keiichi pats my head while smiling, but it seemed like he was misinterpreting what I meant. I didn't come back. I compared that world and this world, made my choice, and came here. Why did I choose this world? It was because this world is more comfortable to live in. Satoko is always together with me, all the club members are kind to me and pamper me. But in the end, it's a world built on everyone's misfortunes and sins. In other words, I chose to impose sacrifices onto everyone for the sake of my own happiness, without any kind of shame, egotistically, selfishly. In that world, all of them were satisfied. I was the only one who wasn't. But I knew that, through my efforts, there was a possibility where the me of that world too could be happy. But in the very end, I chose this world. On top of having coated my friends with suffering and tears, I chose a world where I rest on my laurels. Sounds like a very interesting world. Thank you. Even if it was just inside a dream, you made us happy. Reina said that with a smile. Reina looked like she was the only one who was really understanding the true meanings of the word I said. That's Reina for you. But you know, if I were able to choose between the two worlds, I think that choosing this world would be the right decision. Why do you think so? Certainly to me, my mother's divorce was a very sad event. Because of that, a lot of things changed, but in exchange I was able to learn a lot. That's why, you see. I'm sure the Reina of that other world that Rika mentioned is inferior to this Reina as a human being. But it seems like in the dream, Rika still thought about me, even being Reina, as someone to be admired. When I was really Reina, I wasn't a very respectable person. That's why my mother's divorce was a very painful and sad thing, but now I can accept it as one of life's trials. Well, they do say that trials and setbacks make you grow as a person. Yeah, I get what Reina's saying. The me of that world doesn't come to Hinamizawa. I think he's probably a good-for-nothing guy. That incident is the greatest regret of my life, and I must never forget it. I think I have to reflect about it until the day of my death. But because of it, just like Reina said, I was able to learn so much. Possibility of a world where I could avoid that incident of my past may certainly look tempting, but I don't think I like that. That incident is one of the foundations of the Keiichi Maebara of that incident is one of the foundations that the Keiichi Maebara of this today is built on. I agree when you say that. If I were the crybaby from before, as long as Nini were there, I'd have continued to be spoiled the whole time. Certainly the possibility of a world where Nini doesn't disappear is a great temptation, but being a crybaby, it wouldn't have any meaning to be together with him. In that case, I think this world is better for me. Now I'm able to wait for Nini's return, proud of the person I've become. Do you all really think that? Since sins couldn't be erased, you've suffered that much, but even so, you mean you deny yourselves the possibility to choose a pure world where those sins don't exist? Yes, I think that this world here is more precious. Why? Because we all fought to obtain this future. Everyone of that world was only sluggishly carrying out their daily lives, right? My god, between this and the background music, I probably feel like I'm about to start crying again. This is such, like, I feel like this story is such a good capstone to the world of Higurashi. Like, the main story arc. Because of that quote, because we all fought to obtain this future, everyone of that world was only sluggishly carrying out their daily lives, right? That summarizes it, like, I guess that, to me, that summarizes the meaning of Higurashi, that, like, you know, what happens to you once doesn't, dictate like the rest of your life, but also that like the value of autonomy and self-determination and being able to choose what you want for yourself and how you want your life to go. Saikoroshi, you say? You mean it's a sin to live without sins? It's not a sin, but this side is more precious. I think a flower that grew in a greenhouse without knowing hardship is beautiful in its own way, but a wildflower that grew in the field, that endured wind, rain, heat and cold in order to bloom, has something more than just beauty. Reina's only talking about the preciousness of that flower. Is there something to feel ashamed of in a wild flower full of scars? But if I'm told to choose between growing in a greenhouse and growing in the field... Ah, I got it. That's where Rika made her mistake. Me? It's because we're all flowers that grew in the field. Imagining an impossible future after we bloomed and making comparisons with that doesn't make any sense. Rika's story is told through the eyes of a supernatural being who's above the flowers after all. Which of those two worlds is happier? The only one who can answer that would be some kind of god who could come and go between worlds. But a human such as Rika has only one world. No, that's not it. You exist in both worlds, but you can't travel between them freely. The field flower Rika and the greenhouse Rika both do exist, and I think both follow the fate of their worlds and live with pride. When one says a field flower wouldn't have had any hardship if it had been raised in the greenhouse at those times, it's really strange. We are flowers. Where we take root and sprout, we grow with all we can and we bloom with all our might. Saying stuff like, it would have been nice if I were born rich, is just crap from losers. If you have time for those delusions, you should start making effort to look for a cheap supermarket and save your money. That's right. And the Satoko who's so proud of herself for living like that. I think that even if there were a world where Satoko was rich and we compared her with the kind of Satoko that fit your description, the poor one wouldn't fall behind in anything. Although if I could choose, I think being rich would be better. Rika, even having woken up on the world on this side, you're still wavering, aren't you? Was this side really better? You still have second thoughts, wondering if the other side wouldn't have been better, don't you? Perhaps Reina's words show the true colours of those feelings I can't help. I like this world, but I abandoned the other world and can't help but to feel trouble about my decision of forcing everyone to live with their sins. For the sake of everyone I love so much, I should have chosen that world, shouldn't I? Everyone unanimously told me that this world is better, but that's just consolation from beings who weren't given the choice of the gods to be able to choose between two worlds. So everyone optimistically acknowledges this world. If they could really have chosen, certainly they would have been at odds too. Poor thing. That's why the sadness in the bottom of Rika's chest can't be healed, isn't it? Even so, only Reina seems to have been able to understand everything. That's right. I'll explain it through a game so that Rika can understand. Hey, Mion, did you bring candies today? Yeah, why? Kind of scheme has she come up with? Reina curled both hands into fists and presented them to me. Look, a present for Rika. Which hand is the better award? Better award. Me, when I receive a punishment game if I pick wrong? Oh, you won't. Don't worry and choose. Even thinking with the club mindset, this is a no-hint challenge. By looking at the size of Reina's fists, I don't have a clue which hand the candies are. Hey, whatever. This is just about luck. Then I'll choose this fist here. This one, right? Here. When Reina opens her clenched fist, there's a single candy resting on her palm. Seems I chose the right one. Congratulations. Here, say, ah. Is it good? Oops. Okay. It has a strawberry milk taste, a common but nostalgic one. It's yummy. Ah! Are you glad? Then Rika's world is happy. Since I won the multiple choice, I'm really happy. Victory tastes nice and sweet. Hey, Rika, why do you think you won? Me? Reina opens the hands I didn't choose. Ah. In her palm lay two candies. In other words, the hand I chose was the wrong one. Until that moment, it was just an ordinary conversation, but the cheerfulness I had is instantly gone. Is what you're feeling right now close to what Rika's feelings really are? To make comparisons between worlds is beyond a normal person's reach. To compare and worry about that is God's job, not ours. The world given to us is always the only one, and it's possible to try and find happiness in that world. In that dream you had, you were a god who could see both worlds, and that's why you feel like that. So you shouldn't worry about what's in the other hand. I lived 100 years, of which he lived in many worlds, and for that very reason, I believed I was a special being who'd overcome millions of choices to grab my own happiness, and would be able to grab that happiness without fail. I'm going to bear with. No, it's not this one. It's this one I want. There we go. I was able to reach out and grab that happiness without fail. However, it was quite the opposite. Far from being better than everyone, I was falling behind them when it comes to being able to grasp my happiness. I remember that, earlier, Hanyuu bluntly and unpleasantly gave me an immediate answer that the other world was a dream. In fact, it wasn't a dream, but seeing as I chose this world, it has become reality, and the other side is nothing but a dream now. Before opening the box with a cat inside, it's possible to imagine both futures. The future where it's still alive and the one where it has died. But if we open the box, the future becomes just one. The other future becomes nothing but a dream at that occasion. The people who open it accept the future that was inside and go on living. To worry about which of the two boxes would bring about the better future is the job of a supernatural being who can interfere with the contents of the box. With this human body, I half-heartedly stepped into the world of the gods. Because of that, I guess I've been misunderstanding a lot of important things. In that world, Hanyuu regretted it. She regretted having intervened in my life using her divine power. I finally understand that. Hanyuu said it clearly. She said that people should diligently try to do their best in the world that they live in. I have to stop with this witch stuff already. That's right. Now I'm no longer the witch Burncastle. I'm Rika Frude. Maybe the part of me that lives 100 years and pulls the strings of fate at will. Maybe it still exists even now on a higher plane, one beyond the human world. But she isn't me anymore. I am Rika Frude. I'll live in this world and I'll grasp happiness in this world. I must not use that power again. From now on, I'll try not to treat my life frivolously. In other words, I need to be careful not to get into traffic accidents. Huh? That's right. How? That's right. From now on, don't mess around on your bike. That's right. You're absolutely correct. Here we have a girl who couldn't even get that right, going around like she's some sort of witch. Nothing good will come of that. Everyone, let's finish today's visit. Rika's probably very tired. Of course, you'll be able to see her tomorrow and beyond, so let's at least let her rest for today. The director appears, clapping his hands, but my friends didn't seem to feel like parting yet at all. Rika, are you alright now? Thank you. Rena explained it all to me in place of your stammering. I'm fine now. Rika, the next time you lose your life, I think I'll be able to accept that fate. That's right, I think so too. Accidents where a child playing on the road is hit by traffic happen every day all around Japan. Just happened to be in Hinamizawa this time. If I truly regret what I did, I'll have to try not to cross on a red light from now on. But are you sure about that? You used to worry so much about how if I were gone you'd feel lonely. It's alright now, because I managed to make a new friend. Oh? Who is it? Introduce them to me.